what makes us think that you can actually do this again. Hopefully, you've done it before. But the key pieces to me are, have you really market acceptance? I mean, have you really tested this? Are there people who will buy it? Because again, unlike an equity investment, when I give you debt every month, there's a monthly payment that has to happen. So really making sure that it's reasonable, you're going to be able to sell that. And the other things I really like to see is it's really thought through of what is it going to cost to really get this up and running. What are your projections? I'm going to look very much at the financials of this. Also, what you're putting in. As bankers, we don't like to give money to people who aren't putting any money in themselves. So, I'd say rough rule of thumb, probably if it's going to be 25 to 30% is what you need to put in yourself. Because again, if you're asking a bank to do that, we're going to be looking for you to put something in. I will say the brewery one, you had hard equipment. That's something banks love. SBA, I would say talk to Ira around the corner here. That's something that I think banks would get pretty excited about. But let's see what else. The other thing, the gentleman who talked about the wax for the ski. You guys had a great concept. You used the word cheap, and I'd ask you to change that from to inexpensive as you go forward. Because as I was sitting here, and I know nothing about the ski industry. I don't ski, but I heard that it costs $50 for somebody to do it professionally, and you can do it 3 times for $9.99. To me, it was $3 and a lot of work, right? $9.99 with no work, or $150, which is turnkey. I would say there's a lot of value in there. So change that from cheap to you're actually a very, very inexpensive alternative, but there's some value there if you can pull it off. There you need some market testing to make sure it can actually happen, but it's a very interesting concept. I think you all did a great job. So congratulations to you. You guys have any questions for me?
Okay, now go ahead.
Do you guys, as a small business lender, do you guys ever lend money to someone like us, or do you need someone who's actually ran a business before and can prove it?
Experience does matter. And then when you were talking about the successful entrepreneur, that was something that was going through the back of my mind. Is don't discount that, because if somebody's proven they can run a business before, and it can translate to your business, that's very valuable. I won't say we never do, we never have. Depends on how much. If you're coming to us and asking us for millions of dollars, probably not. If it's a reasonable amount, you're putting good money in, and there's a reasonable business plan, it could happen. But again, I would say when you're approaching a bank, it's got to be beyond the concept to, let me clearly walk you through my plan. Here's what it's going to cost me to get this thing up and running. Here's why you should do it with me, right? Because at the end of the day, no business plan I've never seen anybody say, I plan to lose money in perpetuity. So most bankers will look at this and say, yeah, great. But it really has a lot to do with the people behind it. So long-winded way of saying, the management certainly is going to play a huge role in this. Yeah.
What do you precisely look for in terms of a management experience, or what kind of what do you look at for the experience? I'm sure you can't just go off of, this person said they did this, so they must be an expert.
Yeah, I would say I don't deal with enough startups to say I have a great answer for that. Probably in the venture capital industry, you'll probably see a lot more of this. But it's just a reasonability, because, so if you were driving a cab yesterday and now you're opening a restaurant, I'm probably not, I'm not flipping the opening cover of your business plan, but you gentlemen, you're involved in the industry, so you have some knowledge of it. I'm not saying that says you can run a business, but you understand how the product is working. So that makes me a little bit more interested than if you're just like, yeah, I don't ski. If I were pitching your idea, run from it, because I've never run a business myself. I run a region, but that's a little different. And I don't ski, so I don't know this first thing about it, right? So what makes me believe that you can actually do this? Well, you're in a ski patrol. You've been, you said, snowboarding since for the last 10 years. You use the product, you understand how it works, right? So that doesn't get over the fact that you've never run a company or managed a business, but at least it gives me some comfort that you know what you're talking about, right?
Thank you.
Just quick, do you think you could complement, I guess, like an experience, I guess, with a good board of advisors or something like that? Do you think that would help the eyes of the bank, or not really?
Nothing substitutes for experience. My best advice to entrepreneurs, and Bruce, you may shoot me for saying this, but go find somebody else who does something like what you do and apprentice with them for a while. Learn the business. That doesn't sound entrepreneurial, but nothing beats experience. If somebody if 24 years ago I came out and said, hey, I want the job I'm in today, and my boss were to give it to me, he should be probably, it's not being taped, is it? There would be no way I would, it just wouldn't make sense. So, nothing beats experience. The ability to do it, showing you've done it, that speaks volumes to me.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Somak, let's go from the small business lender right to the world of the VC.
Yikes.
And then,
I guess the drinks are already kicking in. Bruce shouldn't be feeding me this year.
By the way,
No, just see. I take care of it.
Yeah, no, so as Bruce mentioned, I'm Somak Chattopadhyay. I'm a partner at Tribeca Venture Partners, and actually, we do actually get involved very early. We actually have done a bunch of company formation stuff. We're not running the companies, but we often seed the idea, put together the teams that we think can help launch it. So we get involved quite early. But most of our companies, when we get involved, have at least a product technology in place. Frankly, maybe even some things you guys presented today, maybe you're at that level, although we're typically looking at some evidence that this could be a massive opportunity, right? So, for instance, just a general comment, I realized you guys had the constraints of a term project and you couldn't spend months talking to thousands of people, but I would say that 20 or 30 people for us is not necessarily a statistical, valid data set. And for us getting, when you start seeing a consumer site, as you start getting to not just thousands, but hundreds of thousands of users which are really engaged and are showing viral activity. That's one, from at least a consumer angle, we would look at. On a B2B side, if you're selling to other businesses, we generally invest in software, content, mobile companies. We're generally looking for at least a handful of referenceable customers. Even if you're not monetizing in a big way, at least some evidence of how they would pay for it. Is that going to be transaction revenue, subscription revenue? Again, can this be a multi-$100 million opportunity? So the one thing I would say for us, which is probably not applicable to most businesses that pitch us, there's a lot of great businesses out there that don't require venture money. That was something that Bob and I were talking about. Most people shouldn't raise venture capital, but the idea is that if you believe that there really is a path to being a multi-$100 billion business in short order, and you need to hire the people, build the product, do all those things, there's really no other substitute than that. And there's many other ways we like to get involved, such as recruiting, building teams, corporate strategy, raising additional sources of capital, etc. So just in terms of just general comments about the businesses, I actually like to, all of you guys did a great job, I think, for some, you did a lot over a short period of time. I would say that there are certain things that I felt were common themes in terms of areas that I would encourage you guys to dig in a little further. One thing is when you think about whether it's a consumer business or a B2B business, is looking at customer acquisition and sales, right? So for instance, I'm not going through every plan, but I'll take two companies as an example. I thought Basketball Brain was very interesting. I think you have a lot of passion for this space. You know your customer well. You have, I think, the beginnings of an interesting product, but I think when you start looking at, so you said there were, I guess, what was it, 30, I can't remember, it was 30,000 coaches?
How many coaches are available?
Yeah.
30,000.
The thing is that I spent a little bit of time looking at other consumer sites targeting coaches, for instance. It's a very fragmented market. And so the idea is that if you think about the actual cost it takes you to find those people, nurture them, convert them to customers, and when you take the lifetime value, you won't get some of this data until you actually try it out. But I think you have to think about, with all the challenge that industry has, is the opportunity, whether you raise venture or not, or even if you bootstrap it, can this be a large opportunity? Take some assumptions, like 30,000, well, let's say 5% convert, and if you're paying $100, is this gonna be interesting to you? Like, what's your motivation as an entrepreneur? If it's something that's just like generating cash flow, that's fine. But some of those things I feel, that was one, for instance, company that I thought was really interesting, but just maybe some things to think about. What was the name of the ski one that you also brought up? The Quick. Yeah, I actually really, again, I just love, talking about actually Charles's point about management, how do we look at management? There's just something, the way you pitched it, that you guys have this infectious enthusiasm for the space, and you clearly understand and appreciate it. When we judge management, we do value experience too, but when I look at management teams, and this is definitely more art and a science, and we sometimes get burned clearly, but generally it's a combination, especially at the earliest stages, having some understanding of the space like you guys have is important. Also, you have to feel as like, do you have the gravitas or the persistence or just the networks to be able to convince the key people you're going to need to get the business up and running? So that might be someone who understands how to manage OEM partnerships, to resell to other partners. It may be the initial angel investors you need on board, or getting those initial ski resorts. And it sounds like you already have some of those networks. But I think from a management perspective, initially the early idea stage, that's important. As you get a little bit further along in the business, the minute you start generating revenue, start growing the business, I think being able to recruit people, this is something we always try to work with our teams, but that's where I think, frankly, some of the people who haven't, Charles is like, people who've got 20 years experience, who've built teams to hundreds of people. You hear examples like Zuckerberg and other people who've scaled companies under, and having key number twos with them to do that. But that's where often you'll see that there's a need to kind of go to the next level. But I think that, I do think that even from our perspective, venture, understanding what are the milestones, so if you are looking for funding, having an understanding of what are the milestones that are going to basically lock in that next round of financing or that next big step in the company. So maybe you need a seed round to show a proof of concept. But then what will it take? You have to think, and that's partly talking to us, talking to Bruce, other people in the industry, to say, what do you need to get from that idea, now that you've got that few $100,000 start the proof of concept, to then turn it into something where you can now recruit that stellar team and raise that larger round. And the thing of, that was an interesting point Charles mentioned about, or I think maybe Rob did too, of making sure you put enough buffer for getting, the idea is that, most things we always are generally, even us investors clearly, maybe I'm not a banker, but we generally tend to be very optimistic. Always give yourselves like 12 months, 18 months of buffer to say, because things may not go the right way, and it's absolutely what kills a lot of our business too. I think Charles was saying that, it's the financial risk. It's the idea that they were this close to maybe proving it out, but things went a little bit sideways, it took a little bit longer, and then you're kind of in the no man's land where you don't have enough progress to get someone like me interested or someone else interested, and it's just something that's, it's a very important thing. But anyway, I'm probably talking more than I should. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions, or we can talk afterwards, Joe?
Okay, thanks. And Bob, who, again, brings the perspective of someone who's launched dozens of games and all kinds of neat products. So thank you so much.
Hi, I thought it was great. One thing I've learned over the years is there are a lot of ideas. Everybody always have a lot of ideas. We saw a lot of different ideas today. And it's really, at the end of the day, how they're executed, because you can go down so many paths and make so many decisions what to do. Some works, some won't. Going to Charles' point about experience, I always like to say you're only inexperienced once, and then you're experienced. So there are things you can, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, there's certain traits in yourself that have to be there that can't be taught. It's passion, it's persistence, it's patience, it's being open-minded, it's listening, it's knowing when what you originally thought is not working, and then you'll take it. I heard that word pivot used a lot. I guess it's
a new buzzword.
I think I've been pivoting for years, and I never called it that. It's just trying to move and trying to adjust. I'll talk about a couple of these things too. So it was Garrett with the basketball brain. So what I didn't hear you say was that you wanted to make it into a brand. That I love the concept of bringing sports psychology to the masses. Because it always feels like a kind of an elitist, like professional athletes. And I think parents, and you went down, I think you said that your target was like a high school and up.
Yeah.
But I think it scales much younger than that, because I think parents will go to any length to give their kids any kind of benefit, and they will subscribe to it. I'm not, I have some questions about your monetization model, but that's a whole different discussion. The one thing that I was thinking, and then you mentioned it, and it turned me on, and I think it's ought to be something you're doing. This is in the branding, because you have basketball brain, and you have golf brain, you should have baseball brain, you should have tennis brain, you should have all of these things, and it should be the branding for sports psychology for the common people. And then some areas will be great professionally, towards a professional use, meaning, you know, schools or colleges and so on like that. And you know, I don't know. Some of your content looks like, you know, kind of kitchen tested, and you know, you may want to get a little bit more validation. You may want to consider who are the brainy basketball people, Coach K, you know, some point Jason Kidd. You know, who are these guys that are considered? Consider offering them equity or some way to put their name on it. I think that would jumpstart. I know that may be intimidating, but I think it would validate the product immensely and go up. And you know, the same with a golfer and other areas. So then let's see. So on do good, again, I didn't see a trademark notice on there. I didn't see a discussion. I heard some talk that you want to be the good housekeeping seal of approval for this kind of element, but it really wasn't, that message really didn't stick with me so much. It's sort of like you just wanted to, you know, go around and give report cards to companies and maybe let them pay you, and then there's going to be maybe questions of integrity, because at the end you're going to be looking for money a lot, and you know, what's the balance? And then companies want to feel like they have to measure up. They may not want to qualify because they think they won't measure, and I think you talked about that a little bit, but I think there's something there. And maybe it's more towards it being a, you know, consumer report, you know, a good housekeeping seal of approval or something of that sort. And then you have to figure out, is it a nonprofit purely? Are you going to try to make money? How you going to establish that brand as really, you know, the do good stamp really means something. You know, that's the challenge there, but you know, nice idea. You know, the second course, I don't know, I had a hard time, I guess. I don't know that business at all. I think that, and you were very candid in what went wrong, and showed an ability to you know, think on your feet and maybe make some adjustments. And you know, I don't know the right way. You know, I might try with a celebrity chef, getting attached and doing these pop-up restaurants. It's kind of interesting. It's a new way of thinking for me. I never heard of a pop-up restaurant before either. Although I did go to a charity event at the Kittle House up in Westchester, and they invited all the restaurants around. It's for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And they set up like stands with their specialty, you know, which and it was very successful.
You got a date with Tom Cruise tonight for another event.
Yeah, that's right. And a swag bar, I thought you had the you know, good presentation. You know, not everything has to be about making money, and you know, I think you have a good vision. You certainly have a passion for it. If you have the resources, you know, I don't know, it seemed like you're self-funding it, maybe you have, you know, resources to be able to continue doing that, and then you can see where it grows to. But It was a well put together presentation, I thought. Getting content and getting writers, I think, is probably easier than you may think. You know, the 20 trade is a game. I think there's something there. I don't know what the competitive marketplace is for that. I have to admit, I was thrown off by the name. I think you forced the name because it sounded like something, but I never balanced it with the word tournament. And then you said so, and it was a matter, I think, of a URL issue, and you know, you might have wanted to tweak it. To me, tournament is Tourney, and when you spell things so wrong, I don't know, it just threw me off. It never told me, the name didn't tell me what the message was. Other than that, and I don't get caught up in that, I thought it could be a lot of fun. There's nothing more fun than playing with some other people's money and seeing how you do. So I think, you know, I think you have something there depending on what the competitive marketplace is, you know, because as you pointed out, some other, you know, big entities have games in the space. Slip Quick Wax, I liked it. I want to know why you know, not to get caught up on names, but you want to K-U-I-K instead of a K-W-I-K. I know what was there a reason for the name? It could be mispronounced.
Honestly, there's two things. One, I got that SK because it was like something from like a former thing that's like, it's like just like a name for me and my friend, like that's where the SK comes in. And then, so I wanted to inhibit that way somewhere into the name. And we wanted to make sure the product was like kind of saying what it is, so it's like slip. So that's like for the, like the ski hill that you want to slip down.
Kind of looks like Slip Cuke or something, you know.
But we also took like the Nesquik name and we wanted to do it like more new and more like, so it sticks into your head, like quick is just like, you know.
Anyway, I think it sounds good. I think it's, listen, I'm a great believer. I mentioned this earlier to you, in that people will pay for convenience, you know. They'll pay for convenience. So and to Charles' point, don't use the word cheap. There's always, we had in the toy industry for years, used to always present toys, and we knew early on, don't say it had a gimmick, it had a feature. So it's sort of the same thing. It's really how you pose it, and you may be able to actually charge a lot more than you think, because the convenience factor, and these companies, these ski shops that might well use them, it gives them a big profit margin in that case. And that's how you know, if they can make a profit, meaning they can wax these skis and snowboards in a much shorter period of time, with much less labor, and deliver the same product, I think you have something there. I would seriously try to see what you can do to establish some proprietary intellectual property to it, if you can. And not just the formula, because things can be reformulated all kinds of ways, but to the system of the application and so on. And then the brewing, and I thought that was really great presentation. I think you thought of just about everything, and I don't know that world, but I know it can be successful. I live near the Captain Lawrence, I visited it, and you seem to have the passion, and you've put a lot of thought and your own time and money into it, so I think you're on your way to something. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Rob. So again,